Ladies and gentlemen, in a world that moves faster than we can catch our breath, love still has this gentle way of showing up, quietly, unexpectedly, and yet profoundly. Love is not always loud. It doesn't always arrive with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes love is just a whisper of the heart. It's that unspoken connection, the glance that lingers a second too long, the silence that speaks louder than words. It's in the way someone remembers how you take your coffee, or the way they stand beside you not just when you're winning, but when you're unraveling. Love, real love, doesn't always scream. It doesn't need to. Because when your heart recognizes something true, it doesn't shout, it listens, and in that quiet, in that stillness, something magical happens. We feel seen. I've traveled through stories, my own and others, across cultures, countries, red carpets, and heartbreaks, and no matter where you go, love looks a little different, but it feels the same. It's universal. Whether it's in the way a mother hums to her baby in Mumbai, or two strangers lock eyes in a crowded New York subway, or in the quiet of your own room when you finally learn to love yourself. Because yes, love is also the whisper you give yourself, the reminder that you are worthy, that you matter, that your voice, your dreams, your presence in this world is important. We're often told love has to be big, bold, performative. But some of the deepest love stories are written in the margins, in the everyday, in the whispers. True love often reveals itself in subtle, quiet ways, through presence, gestures, and understanding, not just grand declarations. In a world where everything competes for attention, from social media posts to 24/7 news cycles, it's easy to believe that love must be loud to be real, that if it isn't posted, documented, or celebrated with balloons and fireworks, it somehow isn't enough. But the deepest, most enduring forms of love rarely arrive that way. They come quietly, without drama, without performance. They live in the spaces between words, in the glances that say everything, in the comfort of someone simply being there. Think about the moments that have moved you most, those times you felt genuinely cared for, truly understood. Chances are they weren't about a grand gesture. They were about someone remembering the smallest detail about you, someone noticing when your energy was off before you even said a word, someone choosing to stay, to sit in your silence, to give you space when you needed it, or to speak up when you couldn't find your voice. Love is often expressed through presence, the decision to show up over and over again, even when it's not convenient or easy. There's a unique beauty in love that isn't loud. It doesn't compete for attention. It doesn't try to prove itself. It simply exists quietly, steadily, authentically. It's the way someone reaches for your hand in a crowded room, the way they send a message just to check in, not because they have to, but because they want to. It's in the meals cooked without asking, the small acts of kindness, the support offered without conditions. These aren't fireworks. They're candles, constant, gentle, warm. They don't demand to be seen, but once you notice them, you realize how deeply they illuminate your life. Our culture is trained to glorify the spectacle. We equate noise with value, but love doesn't always need to be performative to be powerful. In fact, some of the most genuine forms of love are the ones that unfold in private, unseen by the world, but deeply felt by the soul. They are the relationships that aren't about public validation, but about personal truth. They don't need to be shouted from the rooftops because they're felt in the bones. When love is quiet, it's also patient. It waits, it watches, it learns. It doesn't force or rush or demand. It understands that people take time, that hearts need space to heal, that trust is built in layers, not leaps. Love that whispers listens more than it speaks. It pays attention, it remembers, it adapts, and in that quiet attentiveness, it becomes something sacred, something rare. Sometimes we miss it, though. We're so conditioned to look for the noise, the spectacle, the big signs, that we overlook the real thing when it's right in front of us, simple, humble, and true. We mistake consistency for boredom, presence for obligation. But love that endures isn't built on adrenaline or drama. It's built on reliability, on quiet devotion, on those moments when someone chooses you, not in a spotlight, but in the shadows when no one is watching. So when you find that kind of love, the kind that doesn't scream but stays, the kind that whispers your name when the world is too loud, listen to it, hold it close, because while the world may celebrate the roar, it's the whisper that often holds the heart. The deepest connections in life are not always made through words. They are not always loud or obvious. In fact, the most powerful bonds often come from silence, from the spaces in between the noise, where hearts speak without saying a thing. Love, when it's real, doesn't need to perform. It doesn't need to announce itself. It just exists. It moves beneath the surface, subtle and strong, like a current you can't see, but can always feel. There is something extraordinary about feeling understood by someone without having to explain yourself, about being known in ways that even you didn't know were possible. We live in a time where communication is constant, but connection feels increasingly rare. We have emojis, voice notes, texts, DMS, millions of ways to talk, and yet so often people don't truly hear each other. That's because real connection requires presence, not just words. It's eye contact that holds, not shifts. It's the moment someone knows something's wrong before you even speak. It's the feeling of being safe enough to be quiet together without pressure to fill the silence, because sometimes love doesn't show up in a paragraph or a speech, it shows up in a pause. Think about those moments when you've looked at someone and just known what they meant. No explanation, no confusion, just clarity. That's love talking without making a sound. That's the whisper of the heart. It's the recognition of something familiar in someone else, the unspoken feeling that says, I see you, I get you. It's rare, it's raw, and it's real. You can't fake it, you can't force it, but when you find it, it's unforgettable. Some people mistake noise for passion. They think yelling, constant messaging, or dramatic displays mean deeper connection, but noise isn't always presence. Sometimes it's distraction. True connection is quiet because it's secure. It doesn't need to shout because it already knows its value. It's not trying to convince you. It's just being with you. It's the way someone listens, not just to your words, but to your energy, the way they remember the small things. The way they notice when you're not okay and don't ask questions. They just sit beside you. There's a rare grace in someone who knows how to hold space for you without needing to fix you. Someone who lets you be messy, confused, or silent, and doesn't try to fill that space with advice or noise. Just presence, just peace, that's love, and that's the kind of connection we need more of in this world. Less about proving, more about understanding. We spend a lot of our lives searching for people who speak our language. But what we really want are people who understand our silences, who know when to hold our hand instead of offering words, who know that sometimes the greatest comfort is simply not being alone. In those moments, love doesn't speak in sentences. It whispers in energy, in empathy, in presence. When love becomes a quiet space where you can breathe, where you don't have to perform or be perfect, that's when you know it's real, because love doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it comes in stillness. And in that stillness, the heart speaks the loudest. Love is one of the few things in life that transcends borders, cultures, and languages. It doesn't ask where you're from, what you believe, or what language you speak. It just exists quietly, powerfully, universally. Whether it's in a bustling cafe in Paris, a quiet village in Kerala, or a street corner in Tokyo, love looks a little different everywhere, but it feels the same. That's what makes it so incredibly beautiful. It's one of the few emotions that connects all of us on this planet, no matter how different our lives may be. A mother humming to her child, a couple sharing a glance across a crowded room, two old friends laughing over memories. These moments may happen in different corners of the world, but the emotion behind them is the same. That warmth in your chest, that deep sense of belonging, that's love. It might be expressed through a touch, a word, a gesture, or sometimes just in presence, but it always speaks the same emotional truth: you matter to me. Different cultures might express love in distinct ways. In some places, it's loud and expressive. In others, it's quiet and respectful. Some cultures place emphasis on words, while others lean into action. But underneath those differences is a heartbeat that syncs with all of us. It's the reason love stories are universal. It's why music, poetry, and cinema centered around love resonate across continents. Because deep down, no matter where we're from, we all want the same things: to be understood, to be accepted, to be loved. This universality isn't just about romantic love, it's about humanity. It's about the compassion a stranger shows when you drop your bags. The friend who listens without judgment, the teacher who believes in you when you don't believe in yourself. Love shows up in countless forms in every culture, every language, every time zone. And when we recognize that, we start to see how deeply connected we all are. It's easy to look at the world and focus on division. Different beliefs, different customs, different ideologies. But love reminds us that despite those differences, our emotional core is the same. That's the whisper of the heart. It says, "Hey, I feel that too." It's a soft but powerful reminder that no matter how far apart we may seem, there's something unshakably human in all of us. And isn't that comforting, that no matter where you go in the world, love will find a way to be understood? It doesn't always need translation. It doesn't need subtitles. It simply is. A smile can say it. A tear can say it. Even silence can say it. That's why when you feel it, whether from a lover, a parent, a friend, or a stranger, it feels familiar. Because love is the one language that speaks to all of us in exactly the same way. So, whether it's whispered in your ear, written in a letter, or felt in the way someone holds your hand, trust that it's real. Trust that it connects you to something bigger than yourself. Because when we strip everything else away, titles, borders, achievements, what we're all really longing for is love. And when you feel it in any corner of the world, you'll know. It speaks right to your heart. Love is not just about how deeply you care for someone else. It's also about how gently and fiercely you learn to care for yourself. In a world that constantly asks us to prove our worth, to meet impossible standards, to compare ourselves with highlight reels and filters, self-love has become one of the quietest yet boldest forms of rebellion. It's not just a trend or a buzzword, it's a lifelong relationship, the most important one you'll ever have. Because before you can truly love someone else in a healthy way, you have to learn how to love the person staring back at you in the mirror. This kind of love isn't always easy. In fact, it's often the hardest. We're taught to be kind to others, but rarely taught how to be kind to ourselves. We apologize for taking up space, for speaking too loudly, for wanting more. We're told to be modest, to shrink, to play small. But self-love whispers something different. It says, "You are enough, just as you are." It's not about arrogance. It's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about accepting all your imperfections and choosing yourself anyway. Loving yourself means knowing when to walk away from things that hurt you. It means setting boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. It means forgiving yourself for your past, showing compassion for your present, and holding space for your future. It's about being your own source of validation, instead of constantly waiting for it from the outside world. And when you begin to give yourself the love, respect, and care you deserve, everything around you shifts. The way you let others treat you changes. The choices you make come from strength, not fear. You stop chasing love and start attracting it. Self-love also means celebrating your own growth, even when it's quiet. It's in the way you choose peace over drama, healing over chaos, your sanity over pleasing others. It's the courage to say, "This isn't for me," even when everyone else thinks it is. It's in showing up for yourself on the days when your confidence wavers. It's choosing to speak gently to yourself when that inner critic gets loud. And it's recognizing that no matter how messy the journey gets, you're still worthy of love, especially from yourself. There is something incredibly powerful about a person who has learned to stand in their own light, who knows their worth not because someone else told them, but because they claimed it. That kind of love radiates. It doesn't shout, it glows. It inspires others to do the same, because when you love yourself deeply, you give others permission to love themselves too. You break cycles, you change narratives, you create space for more authentic, grounded love in every direction, romantic, platonic, familial, and beyond. So if your heart is whispering for rest, for healing, for softness, listen. If it's asking you to stop, to breathe, to forgive yourself, listen. Self-love isn't always loud or glamorous. Sometimes it's just saying no. Sometimes it's showing up to therapy. Sometimes it's dancing in your room alone. Sometimes it's looking in the mirror and not criticizing, but simply seeing. And every time you choose yourself with love, you grow a little stronger, a little lighter, a little more you, because at its core, self-love is the foundation of all love. It's the whisper that says, you are worthy, even when no one else says it, especially then. Love doesn't always come wrapped in cinematic moments or grand confessions. Often it lives in the small, unnoticed, beautifully ordinary parts of life, the quiet gestures, the soft routines, the everyday acts of care that don't make it to Instagram stories but shape the foundation of something real. We've been conditioned to think that love must be extravagant to be meaningful, that it must shout to be heard, but the truth is, some of the most powerful love stories are written in the margins of daily life. And they are anything but ordinary. It's the way someone brings you your favorite snack without asking, the way they wait for you to get home before starting the show you both love. It's sitting beside you in silence while you're overwhelmed, not demanding conversation, just offering presence. These are the quiet declarations of love that happen outside the spotlight, and because they aren't loud, they're easy to overlook. But that doesn't make them any less significant. In fact, it makes them even more precious. Because that's what real love does. It settles into your life and becomes part of the rhythm. It doesn't need to perform, it just is. There's something deeply intimate about someone who knows your smallest habits, who remembers how you take your tea, who picks up on your mood even when you're smiling. That kind of love is attentive. It notices, it learns you, not the curated version, but the real, unfiltered morning, hair overthinking, late night you. And when someone chooses to love that version of you every single day, in ways both seen and unseen, that's extraordinary. The everyday love is powerful because it builds trust, one small moment at a time. It's not built on adrenaline or chaos, but on consistency, on someone choosing you, on an ordinary Tuesday after a long day when you're not at your best. It's the stability of knowing someone will be there, not just when it's fun, but when it's hard. It's that simple text saying, "Did you eat?" or the way they remind you to wear a jacket when it's cold out. It's not dramatic, but it's deeply grounding. It's not flashy, but it lasts. In a world obsessed with big moments and curated perfection, everyday love is revolutionary. It's resistance to the idea that love must be performative. It reminds us that love is not a constant high, but a steady beat, that it's not about being swept off your feet. It's about having someone who walks beside you every single day, no matter what. And let's be honest, real life is made up of those ordinary days. Mornings when you're rushing out the door, evenings when you're too tired to talk, Sundays filled with laundry and grocery lists. That's where love quietly thrives. That's where you see its strength, not in the fancy dinners or big surprises, but in who still shows up when things are boring or messy or just normal. So if you've found someone who shows you love in these everyday ways, hold on to that. If you are someone who gives love in these everyday ways, know that it matters. The world may not always applaud it. There may be no viral moment, no soundtrack playing in the background, but the heart notices. And it remembers, because everyday love isn't loud, it's loyal, it's not fleeting, it's forever. There's something profoundly brave about following the quiet voice inside you, the whisper that nudges you toward what feels right, even when the world around you is loud with opinions, pressure, and expectations. Love, in its truest form, often doesn't come crashing into your life with a dramatic entrance. It doesn't always arrive with clarity or confidence. Sometimes it shows up as a feeling, small, tender, persistent. A whisper of the heart, and if you're brave enough to listen, it can change your life. That whisper could be telling you, this is home, when you're with someone who makes you feel safe, or it might say, this isn't right, even if everything looks perfect on the outside. It might come to you in moments of stillness, like when you're lying awake at night or staring out the window on a train. It doesn't always make logical sense, but love isn't supposed to be calculated. It's supposed to be felt. The world teaches us to look for signs, checklists, compatibility, timelines. But love, real love, doesn't always follow a schedule. It might not come in the package you expected. It might not fit the version of the future you had neatly planned out. It might disrupt your life in the best way or ask you to let go of things you never imagined living without. But that whisper, that quiet pull in your chest, knows the truth before your mind does. The heart always knows. Listening to the whisper of the heart takes courage because it often leads you down paths that are uncertain. It might ask you to risk being vulnerable, to walk away from something stable, to open yourself up to the unknown, and that's terrifying, but that's also where the magic lives. When you stop silencing that inner voice and start honoring it, you begin to live in alignment with who you are, not who the world wants you to be. That whisper isn't just about romantic love either. It could be calling you toward a passion you've buried, a purpose you've ignored, a part of yourself you've forgotten. Maybe it's the nudge to write, to sing, to build, to leave, to begin again. Love isn't just who you're with, it's also what you give your energy to, what you say yes to, what makes you feel alive, and the heart always whispers toward aliveness. But here's the thing, because it's a whisper, it's easy to miss. Easy to doubt, especially when other voices are louder, fear, doubt, logic, noise from the outside world. That's why you have to slow down sometimes, get quiet, tune in, because the heart doesn't shout. It doesn't argue, it doesn't fight for attention, it just waits for you to hear it, and when you do, when you finally lean into that feeling, you start living from a place of truth. You stop settling for what's convenient and start reaching for what's real. You stop chasing love that looks good and start choosing love that feels good, because the whisper of the heart, it never lies. It's the most honest thing you have. It will never lead you astray, not if you're brave enough to follow where it leads.